All right, Brett Frevert, it is great to have you here on the Voice of Influence podcast.
Thank you, Andrea. Good to be here. I appreciate you reaching out.
Yeah, so would you tell us a little bit about the story or the origin story of how you started CFO Systems?
The abbreviated version or the colorful, longer version?
Whichever version you want to tell.
Sure. The colorful, longer version is I have always been involved in and had huge appreciation for the middle market. And during summer of '04, was working with a middle market entity as a full-time CFO. And when I had started the role 2 years earlier, we said, once we get this cleaned up, you're really not going to need a full-time CFO. And they said, yeah, that's okay. We'll figure it out when we get there. Well, summer of '04, I was interviewing and I was finding plenty of work opportunities, but the model was still find somebody, give her or him a full-time job. And I just didn't, I couldn't see the need for a full-time CFO at a 20, 40, $60 million company. And so I continued to decline the job offers. That fall, the partners in the firm came in and said, hey, you know what, we don't really need a full-time CFO. And I said, yeah, I know, we had this conversation, and it'll, appreciate it, great opportunity. We really got stuff cleaned up, turned around. The business is poised for fantastic future, blah blah blah. And they said, appreciate it, here you go, and here's a nice small parting gifts. And I looked at the parting gifts and just about choked. And so I quickly called my friend and mentor, Father Stillmonks, and said, hey, we need to talk. And we sat down to talk. And I said, so here's the deal. I've got 4 young kids. We've got 6 weeks to Christmas, and I've got 4 weeks severance. He goes, yeah, you better get started. And I said, did you understand what I said? I've got 4 kids, 6 weeks, 4 weeks. And he goes, yeah, I understood what you said. You better get started. And I said, well, you're not very encouraging, but okay. And I went home, typed up a 3-paragraph email and sent it out to about 60 or 70 good trusted advisors, friends, former colleagues, what have you. And said, hey, I'm always appreciated working with you. Wanted to let you know what I'm up to. I'm no longer with the real estate firm, but I'm launching a new firm to provide part-time CFO services. And waited, have a great idea, and got started as father recommended, and waited, and it took about 2 weeks to get the first client.
Wow. So you sent these emails out. Did you do a lot of like follow up, or did you just wait to hear them come
I
back?
followed up with a few,
Yeah.
but the offer was, can we get together for breakfast, coffee, lunch, or happy hour? It
Yeah.
wasn't, hey, do you have work for me? Or hey,
Yeah.
can you do something for me? I was, what, can we get together? And a few did, out of say 60, probably 20 got together and said, yeah, sounds good. Sounds, never really heard of such a thing. How'd you come up with this idea? And I just kept plugging along. And about 2 weeks into it, a friend hired me to work on a forecast for his company. A couple weeks later, a banker friend referred his cardiologist client to us. About early '05, a lawyer friend referred his client to me. And by summer of 2005, I had a team of 3 and 6 clients,
There you
and
go.
we were off and running.
And you were off to the races. So would you give us like the 1-minute version of the montage through the years and how you got to where you're at now?
Sure. So the first couple of years, it was sort of a loosely knit band of brothers of, hey, let's call ourselves CFO Systems, and I'll have some clients and you have some clients, and we'll work together. And then in spring of 12, I had just finished a pretty sizable capital raise for a client. Took 2 weeks off to go do the hike through China, through Tiananmen Square, Great Wall, all that kind of stuff with some dear friends, and decided, you know what, I really want to turn it into a real firm. And so came back and resigned from our largest client, that was about 40% of our revenue at the time, and decided to go out and start recruiting additional people to join the team, and get it out and do some even more intense marketing. And we took off, and to the point that we fairly quickly hit Inc. 5000 for fastest growing firms in America. And fast forward to 2015, four colleagues joined me as partners in the firm. And fast forward to 18 and 19, we were expanding geographically into other parts of the country, heavily into Kansas City, San Diego, Connecticut, now Atlanta. And fast forward to spring of 2022, and we've got 95 people on the team, literally across the country, from San Diego to Hartford and Seattle to Raleigh.
Congratulations. So
Thank
in
you.
the process there, you built teams. You built a lot of teams, it sounds like. And
Right.
You've worked with a lot of teams. And
Right.
a lot of what we talk about around the Voice of Influence podcast is around the people side of business and leadership and teams. And so I'm curious, what are some of the characteristics that you think are most important for really building a successful team?
That's, they teach college courses to teach people how to be coaches and lead teams.
Yeah, I'm just asking for,
And
the 1 minute version of your
yeah, the
best.
1 minute version of what's it take to build a successful team. I think it starts with the vision, and it sounds trite, but truly having a vision. What are you trying to do, and why? Why are you trying to do this? And if you can enunciate and describe well enough why you're trying to do what you're trying to do, people will join. And you may talk to 10 people and 1 joins. You may talk to 20 people and 2 or 3 join. But the cool thing is, once you can really enunciate what you're doing and why you're doing it, people will either buy in or not buy in. And those that buy in commit. I mean, our turnover rate is incredibly low, because people understand that when they join CFO Systems, they buy in, they're part of the team, and why they're here. They're here to take care of their family, and they're here to help their clients get better.
What do you think has been one of the biggest factors in your company's success over the years?
Our trusted advisor relationships. So you won't see much advertising or emails or any of the traditional marketing or advertising from CFO Systems. We invest our time and money in relationships. We have the phrase breakfast, coffee, lunch, or happy hour. And we want our people to reach out to those trusted advisors, the bankers, the lawyers, the CPAs, the investment bankers, insurance brokers, the professionals that already work with the middle market. And the middle market leadership knows and trusts those advisors. And so when the advisor sees a need for a CFO or a controller or an HR director, they'll say, you know what, you really need to call CFO Systems. And as such, our close rate is extremely high, because the very busy leadership of a middle market team trusts their trusted advisor. And if the banker says, you know what, you need to call CFO Systems, they do.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, people are looking for people that they can trust. They don't want to, it's hard to find people that you can trust if you don't already have those relationships. Yeah. How do you build those relationships? Yeah, go ahead.
Well, it is hard to find, and it's time consuming, and it's high risk. And, there's certainly times where it makes a ton of sense to spend the time and money to hire a full-time employee, and we fully support that. We actually have a recruiting division as well. So we're all in favor of full-time employees when the time is right. But along the way, you may very well be served better by a part-time CFO, part-time controller, part-time HR director, and we may be able to bring 2 of those people to the client. So if you go back to summer of 04, when I'm interviewing with the $20-30 million company, and they want a full-time CFO to be a CFO and a controller and an HR director and a payroll clerk, it's highly inefficient to hire one person to cover 4 different desks, and we can bring 2 or 3 people to the table.
Mm. So when people come to you now, are they coming to you with that general idea of, I think we need a CFO? How do we know what we really need? How do you help them figure out what they really need?
Listen, ask a lot of questions. Some people have been in organizations that had a CFO. Some people don't know. Some people are. So tell me, what does a CFO really do, and why would I not just go to my banker or my tax guy? And others are, yep, we need a CFO 2 days a week would be great. Can you bring a HR director along? And it's just full speed ahead.
Okay, so you've helped a lot of business leaders grow their companies. What are some of the common misconceptions that you've run into when people are trying to build a profitable business?
That all revenue dollars are equal, that high growth is good, that a body's a body, numbers are numbers. Doesn't matter if they bring in a banker or a tax accountant or a retirement planner or a true CFO, that numbers are numbers. The other thing there's such a common phrase out there of build a better mousetrap and the world will beat a path to your door. What we found, and we believe, and we really encourage our team and our clients, is you can build a better mousetrap, but you better have a marketing program to tell the world about it, because there are a lot of broke mousetrap engineers out there. So it strikes people as surprising and counterintuitive that a group of financial people would be so dead set on marketing. Get out and you have to get the word out. You have to get the word out, because otherwise the world can't and won't beat a path to your door. They don't know anything about your mousetrap.
Not everybody can rely on the trusted advisor methodology that you have.
Well, but we had to tell them. We still have to get out and tell them.
Yeah.
So we have to go to breakfast, coffee, lunch, and happy hour 3, 4, 5 times a week and tell the trusted advisors and remind the trusted advisors and thank the trusted advisors.
So building the relationships. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So you mentioned not all revenue is the same. Can you expand on that? And the same thing with
Sure.
that I think you said high growth is great or something.
Always good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of people and entities don't understand profitability or incremental profitability. So what does it cost me to generate this product for client A and the same product for client B, or a slightly different product for client B? And how do I know if the truck or the machine that I'm making for these 4 different clients, if I'm really making money on them or not, and am I making enough profit to cover the overhead and to provide a good living for the people? And so, especially when times get tough, the very strong entrepreneurial drive will frequently drive people to just go sell more, go sell more, go sell more. And selling more at a small loss, even at a small loss, can put you out of business. Selling more at a large loss will put you out of business very quickly.
Mm.
So helping people to see and understand a profitable dollar versus an unprofitable dollar is huge.
Yeah. Yeah. That really reminds me, of course, of some of the high profile failures that we've seen, certainly with Theranos, with WeWork. Those are on the top of the mind because of their TV streaming series right now. They each have one. What strikes me about those in particular, and maybe you've seen this before, where there's a pretty charismatic leader who can sell. They can go out and raise the money, but they're not necessarily turning it into profit in the end. So they end up with these multi-billion dollar companies that aren't profitable. Would you speak to that, and the characteristic of charisma and selling, and how to balance that if you are somebody that does have that charisma?
That's a tough one. And it is fantastic for fodder for network series. So you used a couple words that are key there, and the charismatic leader goes out and raises money and the company's not profitable. Well, and understanding cash profit versus accounting profit is huge, but also understanding the difference between generating profit with the product or service you make and sell versus raising money, raising capital, and spending, the phrase is OPM, other people's money. So both of those are fantastic illustrations of OPM. And a charismatic leader goes out and raises a tremendous amount of money to keep spending because the company's not profitable. And there were plenty of other underlying issues there, but a company that can be profitable, will be profitable, does need to be fed OPM until they become profitable. But understanding the difference between OPM and profit is absolutely vital for the success of the company.
So when you're trying to, when a company is trying to turn OPM into profit, how do they know if they're actually making progress or not?
Andrea, is that a softball you're throwing me? That's when you need that's when you need a good accounting department, right? Okay, if we're making this, are we generating profit on every one? And if not, why not? And if not, how do we? And if we're making profit on it now, will we in the future? What's going to happen? Is there a barrier to entry? But truly, you need a solid accounting department and a solid cost accounting system to say, okay, what are the inputs? What are the outputs? How do we generate profit on this?
All right. So business ownership, business leadership, we're going to take a little turn personal real quick, if you don't mind. Business ownership and leadership is, I've heard from so many different people, is such a personal journey. Like they have their own personal growth that happens throughout. Is there any kind of personal growth that you've really noticed in yourself throughout the last 18 years of business ownership?
Probably even before 18 years. One of the biggest things for me was when I learned that in a corporate accounting department, if everybody had the energy and attention span and desire for change that I do, it would never get done. And that there's a time for change and time for building new systems and new processes, but there's also a time for that invaluable accountant that is going to have enthusiasm for doing financials 12 times a year or 52 times a year for the next 5 years. And so learning to respect the different styles, the different personalities was huge for me when I was in corporate accounting. And at CFO Systems, I'd say we probably went through some of the similar challenges that, you know what, not every dollar is a good dollar. And we have a couple of phrases we remind people frequently that, you know what, there are a lot of people that are willing to let you work for free. And we don't really believe in working for free, because our first and strongest core value is take care of your family. So for most of us, we can't take care of our families properly if we're working for free. And so learning how to, as quickly as possible, distinguish, is this a good entity? Is this a good organization we want to work with or not? Is huge, just absolutely vital to our success. And we'll go down the road with somebody for a while. But if there's 2 or 3 flags, it'll be, you know, this probably isn't going to be a good fit for anybody. On the other hand, those that embrace, the clients that embrace our core values are phenomenal to work with, and the energy and enthusiasm and just excitement at winning is huge when you partner up with somebody that shares your core values.
Do you share your core values with them throughout the client journey someplace? Where when do you do
Almost
that?
constantly. Yeah. It's so whether we're interviewing potential candidates or we're in early conversation with potential clients, we listen for examples of the core values, and then we watch. And yeah, we talk about it frequently that, you know what, we work as a team, we GSD, and we're completely truthful and transparent, because it's quicker, more efficient. And if we work as a team to GSD, then we can spend more time with our family.
So in the past couple of years, you know, things have shifted a lot. As we all know. What have you noticed about leadership shifts in the last couple of years? Like what shifts need to happen or have happened that you see in leadership?
Yeah, I think the probably the primary shift that is occurring, and there are some starts and stops with it, but that not only the need, but the ability to be outcome based and to trust people to get their work done and to be productive and to be good workers. And I think it's another major step forward in the whole progress from the old industrial revolution, where we had to have somebody there watching the workers every hour, every day to make sure they were working, to where we've been in the last 30, 40 years to, you know what, I can be a CFO in Omaha and have a team in Minneapolis or Seattle, or, you know, one of our greatest examples, illustrations of it, we're working with a company up in Montreal, and we don't have anybody up in Montreal, but the private equity group had a company up there and they wanted us to come up and work with them. So we brought in a CFO from Philadelphia, and he needed help. So core value number 3, we're team, he asked for help to get stuff done. But he brought in a controller from Bozeman, Montana, and an FP&A professional from Albuquerque, and they never left home. So you take somebody from Philly and Bozeman and Albuquerque and put them together working on a project up in Montreal. And could that have happened 2 years ago? Obviously it could have, because it could happen now. But would it have been received, allowed, embraced? Don't know. But now it absolutely is. And we get calls from people now where the conversation has done a complete 180, where instead of saying, well, we need you guys on site, clients are saying, you know, it'd be good if you came on site, get the lay of the land, understand, build a rapport, but then you can do most of it from Omaha or from your office. You don't need to come out once a month. And 2.5 years ago, it was truly completely the other way, that, you know what, we like to come out, have some boots on the ground, meet the people, get to understand the culture, the systems, see the plant, see the facility, but we can then pull back. Now they're telling us that up front.
Hmm. Yeah, that really, it raises the other question about the future of work. Do you see additional shifts coming?
Yeah, I think it's going to, the pendulum swings, right? Pendulums always swing, and they
Mm.
swing too far, and then they swing back, and they'll come down somewhat in the middle, and until there's another major disruption. So how many large entities are going to 100% work from home? Very few. Talked about it, but very few really are. How many are going to a hybrid, which is this huge gray zone in the middle? A lot, vast majority. Now, can you work in a meat packing plant remotely? Not really. Can you do nursing remotely? Not very easily. Surgery, surgeons have been working on this for decades, 15, 20 years, that, we can have a surgical robot in London, and I can run it from Omaha. True story, live technology. So there are some jobs, and here's the interesting thing, of all people, the accountants always felt that, oh, we have to be there. We have to touch the paper and fold the paper and put the paper in the file. You don't, you really don't have to. You can get almost everything from your screen.
Hmm.
So it's really fantastic because it's saving people so much time. I've got a quick story. I've got a dear friend that's an investment banker out in LA, and I'm talking to him, sometime summer, fall of 2020. Is Mark, how's it going for you? He goes, I wish we'd have had this pandemic a long time ago. I said, oh, okay, tell me more. And he goes, well, I used to get up and I'd shower and shave and put on my tie and my suit, and I'd go get in the car and I'd sit on the freeway for an hour and a half, and I'd go to the office and I'd sit down and I'd make a cup of coffee and sit down and fire up the computer and start working on emails, and I'd get on conference calls. And then 6 o'clock, I'd pack up and I'd go to the car and sit on the freeway for another hour and a half and go home and see my family. He said, now I get up, I have breakfast with my family, I go to my home office with a cup of coffee, and I jump on the computer and jump on conference calls. And at 6 o'clock, my wife comes and says, hey, Mark, you want to go have a drink on the deck? And I say, yeah, I'm done for the day. And so he's saving 3 hours a day, 15 hours a week that he can now spend with his family in the morning and evening. And so you hear stories like that, it's like, oh my gosh, how cool. And somewhat remorseful, and the years that he spent sitting on that stinking freeway when he
Yeah.
could have been having breakfast with his daughter and drinks on the patio with his wife. So there's a lot of really good things that came of the last 2 years, and a lot of change that could have, should have happened years ago. And hopefully the pendulum doesn't swing too far back, and we really settle here in this hybrid world for
Hmm.
another 5 years, see what happens.
So here we are at this stage of the pandemic, kind of hopefully towards the end, but we keep seeing little variants pop up and whatnot. And then, of course, there's all of the political disruption and, the war in Ukraine and such. But where we're at right now, what 2 or 3 things do you think that leaders of companies need to focus on for their companies?
Yeah, you know what? I think when we initially talked, I was going to say find talent, find talent. We were having a conversation in the office this morning, and I don't think that I don't think the priority, it's certainly a priority to find talent, but it's even a higher priority to take care of talent.
Yeah.
And to keep your people enthused, to keep them satisfied, to keep them enjoying, loving what they're doing. And that really has to be the highest priority. I have in front of me some alarming numbers and numbers that you just think, where do we go from here? But for March, US job openings were 11.3 million, 5.9 million unemployed. So there's 1.9 jobs for every unemployed worker. And, we're down to 3.5% unemployment in America. So we can't really, so simple math. So there's, say, 11 million, 6 million. You can't really just go create 5 million workers, right? So somehow that 11 million jobs has to collapse down to the workforce. And so for people to continue recruiting and stealing and snagging workers from each other is a short-term solution, might be a long-term fix. Again, we're in the recruiting business, so I don't want people to stop recruiting candidates, but there's 5 million jobs that need to go away, and really more, because you'll never have zero unemployed. So if there's 5, 6, 7 million jobs in America that need to go away, that's the challenge. How do we eliminate 7 million jobs in the next 2 years without another pandemic and economy shutdown?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So what comes to your mind when that issue comes up? I mean, processes and technology. And
Yep. We've seen it over and over in so many different industries, everything from the little, they call them robots, but the machines that fill the cups at McDonald's, right? So for years it's been, okay, punch Coke large, and it fills it, and the worker just puts the lid on and hands it out. Bankers. Now here's another profession that hasn't changed a lot in the last 150 years. They have different technology, but really the business of banking hasn't changed much. Just in the state of Nebraska, we've got 162 banks that now have 700 open positions. And in Nebraska, we only have 1.6 million or 1.7 million people. And we're already at 2.5 or 3% unemployment. So for the bankers to try and steal or recruit 700 people from fellow bankers could create massive turmoil and phenomenal feeding frenzy for the recruiters like us. But 700 jobs will never be filled. Some portion of those, maybe 200 will, maybe 300 will, but there's 400 or 500 jobs that have to go away because there's not a human being to fill it. That's just in Nebraska. Right. Take that nationwide, there's 6 or 7 million that they won't be filled.
So we need to get creative.
Yep, very creative. Yeah. So automation, streamlining. I mean, you may have heard about this book, read about it, but I lived it when it first came out, Reengineering the Corporation. So back in 91, 92, James Champion, Michael Hammer did a project. They were brilliant consultants, management consultants, did a project at Ford Motor Company and figured out that, there's umpteen too many steps to do a simple thing like pay invoices. And so they redesigned the process, called it reengineering, and eliminated dozens, if not hundreds of jobs. So how do we, as my entity, as your entity, how do we as an economy look at what jobs can be automated, streamlined, eliminated, combined with something else? How do we take the most intelligent workforce in the world and raise them up to doing intelligent work and not mind-numbing
automated things that could be
automated. Stuff that should be automated. And it's really pretty cool because, again, Americans are just crazy ingenious, There's a company here in Nebraska that has developed a process to automate meat packing. Now you think about something as difficult and unique as, all right, if I'm going to trim 100 steaks today, it's not like beer cans that are all the same size. They're all different. And using lasers and other reading technology, they can see and read and have created the ability to do some meat packing, which historically has been one of the most labor intensive industries in the whole world. Food and ag is a key area for us. And so we see a lot of automation opportunity there. Again, banking, there's so much that happens in a bank that you just don't really need a live body for if they'd really go through it. And now they have to. The good and the bad is the banking industry will be forced to say, what do we really have to do? And maybe two questions. What do we really have to do? And what do our clients really want us to do? And if they look at those two things and use those two prisms for not only every job, but every task in the bank, do people really care about, and I don't know banking all that well, and I don't want to offend anybody, but do people really care about this? And do we really have to do that? There are certainly some regulations and safety and a good number of other things that have to be done. But you're a bank customer. I'm a bank customer. What am I willing to say? Yeah, I don't care if you do that anymore.
Right. I think that is actually a really good question because, people actually have to get comfortable with change. We've been uncomfortably pushed out of our comfort zones. And now there's going to have to be change because, we're supply chain issues. You're not going to get your order as quickly as you thought, as you used to, and things like this that we get a little irritated about this change that's having to take place. What are your thoughts on helping people to realize that that's just the way it is?
I think it's similar to some of our earlier conversation. You have to. It's very difficult, very painful, almost cruel to just say, you got to change. And you know what, your job's not here. I'm shoving you over there. I think we really need to paint a better picture, or paint a picture of the future that, you know what, if we streamline this and we automate this, and what I always like to do is ask people, the cool thing is I can go talk to an accounts payable clerk or a payroll clerk or a controller and say, okay, what of your job is really unnecessary? And what if we wanted you to do more thinking, more challenging work, what would you stop doing? And the heck of it is, people have such good ideas if management would listen and
Ask the question
and
take the
then
time.
listen to the answer. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and when people are feeling really overwhelmed, it's hard to take that time, but it's a strategic move. It's not a quick fix. It's a long term, it's a long game move.
Very long game. And I think it should, hopefully it's presented as and received as, I respect you so much that I'm not going to stand here and tell you how you really ought to be doing your job. I may do some brainstorming and may do some challenging, but you really know how to do your job better than I do. But what we need to do is create within you the capacity to do more, not just more higher volume, but more challenging, more higher level work. And let's streamline, automate, or stop doing the stuff that you don't really enjoy, stuff that again, that doesn't absolutely have to be done or customers don't care about.
Yeah. Those are good. All right. So what are the main challenge or opportunity that you see in 2022 for your company?
Again, it sounds a little bit trite, but finding the right people. We're growing rapidly. We have a target, a goal of adding one person every week. So
Wow.
and we typically talk to 8 to 10 people. We have somewhere around a 10% take rate, that whether they or we decide it's the right one. So, we'll talk to 500 people and bring 50 onto the team, because what we're seeing is there's so much economic activity out there, and whether you look at the inflation rate or you look at the GDP growth rate, it's way beyond what it has been for years and years and years. And also there's so much money, so much cash out there looking for a profitable deployment, if you will. I read the assertion is that there's $19 trillion looking for a home. So that includes massive stacks of cash like Apple and Microsoft and Berkshire Hathaway have, but it also includes the $15 million. I was on a board call last week and talking about raising money, additional money for the company. And one of the guys says, well, I've got 15 million I could put in. And, he's a Midwestern construction guy. And you say, okay, well, he's got 15 million bucks. And if you've got 15 million and you've got 20 and you have 3, I mean, there's so much desire to put it out there and put it to good use, which by the way, I think the other thing that's really cool that's happened is there's a lot more focus or a lot more attention to non-financial profit or doing good. He'd like to take his 15 million and invest, but it doesn't really need to make 20% on it. It'd just be nice to create another 15, 20, in this case, another 60 jobs. And that's what he really wants to do. He wants to go do something pretty cool, invest in a good company, create another 60 jobs. And that's really rewarding. So what are the opportunities? The opportunities are to help people sort through some of the good ideas with some of them, maybe longer shot ideas, help people really spend the money wisely. Going back to your illustrations earlier of Theranos and WeWork, spending other people's money is typically quite different than spending your own. And so just being there with the investors and the leaders and saying, okay, let's put together some good financials, some good forecasts. Let's make sure we're spending money on the things that we all agreed we're going to spend money on, and create a better life for people.
Awesome. Okay. So where can people find out about CFO Systems?
We've got one of the longest websites, because way back when websites were first coming around, we thought we had to put the whole name in. So the website is CFO Systems LLC.com. I think if you Google fractional CFOs or part-time CFOs, you'll see there are a wide range of CFO firms around the country now. Apparently we pop up quite a bit because we are getting calls from literally around the country. But CFO Systems LLC.com is the quickest, easiest, or reach out to me. My email address is similarly long. First initial, last name, B Frevert at CFOSystemsLLC.com. We're out on LinkedIn. I don't know if you're aware of it. You can pick up your texting device and punch the numbers in punch the buttons in a certain order, and you'll hear my voice on the other end.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought it was something that shifted.
Yeah, my kids were surprised when I showed them that too. Oh my gosh.
I bet. Okay, so closing question. So when we think of a voice of influence, we're really talking about leadership. In particular, someone who develops their voice, their own personal point of view, and how they communicate it. They clarify their mission. They build into their team so that their organization can have a positive impact. So what last piece of advice would you give to somebody who wants to have a voice of influence?
What is your purpose? Why are you trying to do what you're trying to do? Why are you wanting to do what you want to do? And if you have a good, strong why for your life, for your mission, for your voice, people will follow you. It's not a, how do I go get people to follow me? It's, or what do I say to go get people to follow me? It's, where am I going? And why am I going there? And I'll come back to that over and over again. Why am I going there? And does anybody else care enough to follow me?
Sounds good. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your voice of influence with our listeners. It's that theme of having the vision, being able to communicate the vision, purpose, mission that you're talking about, certainly rang throughout our conversation today. So thank you so much. It was so great to visit with you today, Brett.
Likewise. Thank you very, very much. I appreciate it. It was fun. You're very good at what you do.
Thank you.
All right. Take care.